Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I'm back with some more esoterica. Today we are diving back into the works of Mr. Eliphas Levi. This is Transcendental Magic, its Doctrine and Ritual. We are reading aloud and discussing as we go along the various points brought to light by the text. It's not the format for everyone, but people do find value in it, so you are more than welcome to tag along as we continue our exploration. Before we begin, however, if you are unfamiliar with me, any of my unconventional beliefs, or if at any point in time I lose you in the terminology, there will be several playlists linked in the corner above, in the box down below, along with the original source material and my book where I teach you to do magic, so that you can get a better understanding of who I am and why I say the things that I do. With that being said, we are going to dive in and continue our exploration of Transcendental Magic, its Doctrine and Ritual with Part 2, Chapter 14, Transmutations. We're going to start this discussion off by talking about the fact that we have transmuted elements. Now, there is an ordinary transmutation that most people do not even think about. Whenever you do a process of cooking, that is a transmutation. You are taking one substance, applying heat and chemistry, and creating a new substance. That is transmutation. Also, this is a transmutation, right? This lighter contains butane. Whenever we light it, it is transmuting from butane into carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide and various other chemicals. These are transmutations that we do every single day without even thinking about it. Your body does transmutations every single day. You breathe in air, you absorb some of those elements. That is transmuting it from the air into you. These are things that happen every day. In addition to that, there have been actual transmutations of an alchemical nature. We have changed one element into another through the direct manipulation of the electromagnetic forces of creation, which is the Holy Spirit. We have changed bismuth into gold. Now, bismuth is not quite lead, which was what everybody was trying to do, but it's not that far off. It is a different element. We have changed it into gold. It was an enormous resource sink. It was not a return on value at all, except for the fact that we learned, yes, we can do this thing. I have maintained, and I will maintain, that if the alchemy is able to transmute from one substance to another outside of the ordinary things, then the required element, the philosopher's stone, is going to be your directed will. What the directed will does in this particular case is exactly what the electromagnetic bombardment of bismuth would do. It is moving the electrical bonds of the element. That is not necessarily going to happen just from applying heat or chemicals. It can, but it's not necessarily a thing. To change the elemental nature of something is going to take an extreme electromagnetic disturbance. In that case, alchemy would be possible. That is in my estimation. Now, let's dive into the text. But right before we dive into the text, let's talk about the problem with sigils, right? We just did a whole section yesterday about necromancy. Part of that was having the proper, like exactly proper preparations. And if it is not exactly proper, there will be problems. Do you see the problem with this illustration? Do you see where there might be some problems if you were to attempt to recreate this illustration in order to do something magical? Now, I don't know what this is supposed to symbolize. It appears to be the four elements and some random Hebrew stuff thrown in, but it is not balanced. That is going to be a severe problem if you are attempting to do sigil magic with this as your guide. What do you mean, Pitt? I guess this is an upside down dowel, right? This T-pose thing right here. It needs to be moved to the right, probably 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch. Well, in this dimension that I'm looking at. And that's not much, right? That's not a big difference, right? But it's almost touching right here. It is well removed from touching over here. That means it is not centered. The fact that these are almost the same measurements tells me that this is not created in the right manner, right? Severe problems already. This cup on the bottom, it's not centered. It needs to move a little bit to the right as well. If you were attempting to do magical operations and this was your sigil, and you copied this exactly, it would be wrong. That is one of the major problems with using sigil magic. That is one of the fundamental problems, right? It is way too easy to be wrong. If one of these symbols is in the wrong place and you don't know it from what it was intended to be, it's going to be a problem. Now, your intentions play an awful lot into empowering these tools. But if you are empowering a defective tool, you're going to have a problem. If you have a chainsaw and one of the links is really weak and you rev it up and it breaks, there's a problem, right? If there is a hammer and you're hammering something and the handle breaks, that's a problem. You're empowering a tool that may hurt you. This is the same thing. This is one of the reasons why I'm so dead set against sigil magic, and while I may one day open myself up to it, I'm not there yet, right? I'm opening myself up to the entities. I'm not opening myself up to sigil magic yet. For this reason, it is way too easy to not have the correct things. All right, now let's talk about transmutation. St. Augustine speculates, as we have said, whether Apuleius could have been changed into an ass and then have resumed his human shape. I say no to that as a literal, right? That would be an enormous power sink. To transform one entity into another entity is way removed from changing lead into gold. The same doctor might have equally concerned himself with the adventure of the comrades of Ulysses, transformed into swine by Circe. Now, as an allegory, you can absolutely do these things, right? As an allegory, you can be an ass. That is not hard to do. People do it every damn day. Same thing with pigs. People turn themselves into pigs all of the time, right? As an allegory, it's perfectly fine. As literal, it's going to be a little bit harder. In vulgar opinion, transmutations and metamorphoses have always been the very essence of magic. Yeah, that would be to the vulgar. Now, the crowd, being the echo of opinion, which is queen of the world, is never perfectly right nor entirely wrong. Magic really changes the nature of things, or rather, modifies their appearances at pleasure, according to the strength of the operator's will and the fascination of ambitious adepts. Speech creates its form, and when a person, held infallible, confers a name upon a given thing, he really transforms that thing into the substance signified by the name. That is... yeah. Speech creates its form. The most powerful manifestation tool that you have is your voice. The things that you speak about yourself are what you become. If you wake up every day and you're like, I'm a loser, I'm a shitbag, I'm a complete waste of space, then that is exactly what your life will be. That is exactly who you will be. You are creating that in your life. If you wake up every day and you say, I am light, I am love, I am healthy, I am healed, that is what you will be. You are creating that in your life. If you speak into another person, you are creating something in another person. If you look at your child and you say, you're a terrible child, I hate you, how dare you, don't you ever think? That child will grow up with those thoughts in his head. You have created that in that child. But if you look at that child and say, you are perfect, you are whole, you are my child, and I love you, then they will have that in their head. You create, through speech, the existence in which you live. If you wake up every day and you say, it's going to be a shitty day, it's going to be a shitty day. There is nothing you're going to be able to do about that. But if you wake up every single day and you're like, it's going to be a wonderful day, it will. It will be a wonderful day no matter how much shit gets thrown at you. That is mental alchemy. That is the key to manifestation in your life. There is no more powerful tool that you have than your voice. It is even more important than your will, because you can speak things without your will and it will become true. You cannot will something without actually willing it. That makes it more dangerous. It is more dangerous for you to speak idly than it is to have the wrong intentions willfully. Back to the text. The masterpiece of speech and of faith, in this order, is the real transmutation of a substance without change in its appearances. Had Apollonius offered a cup of wine to his disciples and said to them, "This is my blood, of which you shall drink henceforth to perpetuate my life within you," it would have been a blood cult and terrible. Sorry. And had his disciples, through centuries, believed that they continued the transformation by repeating the same words? Had they taken the wine, despite its odor and taste, for the real, human, and living blood of Apollonius, we should have to acknowledge this master in theurgy as the most accomplished of enchanters and most potent of all the magi. It would remain for us then to adore him. Adore is a big word. Now, it is well known that mesmerists impart for their somnambulist any taste they choose to plain water, and if we assume a magus having sufficient command over the astral fluid to magnetize at the same moment a whole assembly of persons, otherwise prepared for magnetism by adequate overexcitement, we shall be in a position to explain readily, not indeed the gospel miracle of Cana, but works of the same class. Are not the fascinations of love, which result from the universal magic of nature, truly prodigious, and do they not actually transform persons and things? Love is a dream of enchantments that transfigures the world. All becomes music and fragrance, all intoxication and felicity. The beloved being is beautiful, is good, is sublime, is infallible, is radiant, beams with health and happiness. When the dream ends, we seem to have fallen from the clouds. We are inspired with disgust for the brazen sorceress who took the place of the lovely Melusine, for the Thersites whom we deemed was Achilles or Nereus. What is there we cannot cause the person who loves us to believe? But also, what reason or justice can we instill into those who no longer love us? Love begins magician and ends sorcerer. After creating the illusions of heaven on earth, it realizes those of hell. Its hatred is absurd like its ardor, because it is passional, that is, subject to influences which are fatal for it. For this cause it has been prescribed by sages, who declare it to be the enemy of reason. Are they to be envied or commiserated for thus condemning, doubtless without understanding, the most alluring of ill-doers? All that can be said is that when they spoke thus, they had not yet loved, or they loved no longer. Things that are eternal are for us what our word internal makes them. To believe that we are happy is to be happy. When we esteem, what we esteem becomes precious in proportion to the estimation itself. I tell you quite often, happiness is not a disease, you do not catch it. It is not a target, you don't aim for it. It is not a destination, you don't reach it. Happiness is a choice that you make on a daily basis. It is saying, this is what I have, and I will be happy with it. I will be happy. I will be happy. You are speaking into your life happiness. This is the sense in which we can say that magic changes the nature of things. The metamorphoses of Ovid are true, but they are allegorical, like the golden ass of rare Apuleius. The life of beings is a progressive transformation, and its forms can be determined, renewed, prolonged further, or destroyed sooner. If the doctrine of metempsychosis were true, one might not say that the debauch, represented by Circe, really and materially changes men into swine, for on this hypothesis, the retribution of vices would be a relapse into animal forms that correspond to them. Now, metempsychosis, which has frequently been misinterpreted, has a perfectly true side. Animal forms communicate their sympathetic impressions to the astral body of man, which speedily reacts to his aptitudes according to the force of his habits. And this is like what you wish to be true will become true, so there's not a whole lot I need to explain, right? We've already hit it. A man of intelligent and passive mildness assumes the inert physiognomy and ways of a sheep. But in somnambulism, it is a sheep that is seen, and not a man with a sheepish countenance, as the ecstatic and learned Swedenborg experienced 1,000 times. In the Kabbalistic book of Daniel, the seer, this mystery is represented by the legend of Nebuchadnezzar, changed into a beast, which, after the common fate of magical allegories, has been mistaken for an actual history. There is not a whole lot in the Bible to be taken as an actual history. In this way, we can really transform men into animals and animals into men. You can embrace your baser nature or rise above them. We can endow minerals with ideal properties. It is all a question of willing. We can equally render ourselves visible or invisible at will, and this helps us to explain the mysteries of the ring of Gyges. In the first place, let us remove from the mind of our readers all supposition of the absurd, that is, of an effect devoid of cause, or contradicting its cause. To become invisible, one of three things is necessary: the interposition of some opaque medium between the light and our body, or between our body and the eyes of the spectators, or the fascination of the eyes of the spectators in such a manner that they cannot make use of their sight. Of these methods, the third only is magical. Right? So, to put something between the light and you, between the body and the eyes, or the fascination of the eyes. So, if you are taking control of their eyes, have we not all of us observed that under the government of a strong preoccupation we look without seeing and hurt ourselves against objects in front of us? You can get tunnel vision. That is entirely a thing. Truckers have to face that all of the time, right? If repetitive motion, continuous sound in the same way is going to put you into a meditative state. And so you can be driving and not realize that you drove. I mean, how many times have you driven home from work and got home and not remembered anything about the drive home? Same thing. Back to the text. So do that seeing they may not see, said the great initiator, and the history of this grand master tells us that one day, finding himself on the point of being stoned in the temple, he made himself invisible and went out. There is no need to repeat here the mystifications of popular grimoires about the ring of invisibility. Some ordain that it shall be composed of fixed mercury, enriched by a small stone, which is indispensable to find in a pewit's nest, and kept in a box of the same metal. The author of the Little Albert ordains that this ring should be composed of hairs torn from the head of a raging hyena. I don't know that he could have annoyed me more than saying that. Now, if you are unaware, I've mentioned it a couple times, but it's possible that you don't know. I used to be a blacksmith. I made things. Now, I never did gold work. I never did silver work, but I beat on steel quite a bit. And I know a little bit about working metals. One of those things would be making a ring. I did it just to do it, tried it to see how it works. There is a 0% chance that you're going to be able to infuse the metal with the hair of a raging hyena. That's not even taking into account the difficulty of obtaining the hair of a raging hyena, because it is not a dead hyena that was raging that you took the hair from. It's not a tamed or drugged hyena that you took the hair from. It is a hyena in the current process of raging, right? That is the necessity. Once again, tools have uses. Some of them are good tools. Some of them are just completely pulled out of the ass of somebody thinking about something and wanting to make it sound really mysterious and hard to obtain, right? Fixed mercury by itself is already going to be a problem, right? It's going to kill you if you use it with any regularity whatsoever, infallibly. But besides that, right, these are extraordinarily difficult materials to obtain, right? A small stone. What kind? What kind of stone? Is it granite? Is it peridot? Is it shale? Is it clay? Like, what kind of stone are we talking about? And you have to find it in the nest of this one particular type of bird, right? I'm assuming a pewit is a bird. I don't know. No. Every single step of that is going to be a no from me, right? Tools, they have uses. You can use them for things. You can imbue them with things. Some of them have an intrinsic leaning, right? Like a rose quartz and the clarification of the sacral, right? That is going to be an intrinsic filter that is built into the stone, but the stone won't do it, right? You can have the stone and set it there and it does absolutely nothing. The stone only works if you imbue it with power, and then only for a limited time, hopefully, right? Long-winded sigils are probably a bad idea too, just saying. Once it is outside of your control, it makes it exceedingly difficult to hold on to. Regardless, all of this is just extra steps to make shit difficult, right? If there is the ability to make a wand, it is going to have a lot to do with what you make the wand out of. If it is out of a cypress tree, which I have done, or a pine tree, is going to make a difference. If it is made out of wood or stone, it's going to make a difference. That difference is going to be on a frequency level, right? When you put your energy into it, the energy that comes out of it is filtered through the frequency of the tool. And therefore, they have different frequencies, they have different uses, but none of them do anything by themselves. Using the consumables of any type from a living being, right? And by that I mean cognitive living being on the third plane or higher, is probably going to result in some negative repercussions. So if you are using the hair of a raging hyena, there will almost certainly be some unintended consequences that reverberate from that. It might make you invisible, highly doubtful, but it will probably make you irritable, especially if you're mixing it with mercury. Hairs torn from the head of a raging hyena, which recalls the history of the bell of Rodilard. The only writers who have discoursed seriously of the ring of Gyges are Jamblichus, Porphyry, and Peter of Epono. What they say is evidently allegorical, and the representation which they give, or that which can be made from their description, proves that they are really speaking of nothing but the great magical arcanum. One of the figures depicts the universal movement, harmonic and equilibrated and imperishable being. Another, which should be formed from an amalgam of the 7 metals, calls for a description in detail. It has a double collet and 2 precious stones, a topaz constellated with the sign of the sun, and an emerald with the sign of the moon. It should bear on the inner side the occult characters of the planets, and the outer their known signs, twice repeated in a Kabbalistic opposition to each other. That is, 5 on the right and 5 on the left. the signs of the sun and moon resuming the four several intelligences of the 7 planets. Now, this configuration is no other than that of a pentacle signifying all the mysteries of magical doctrine, and here is the occult significance of the ring. To exercise the omnipotence, of which oracular fascination is one of the most difficult demonstrations to give, we must possess all science and know how to make use of it. So if you build this, you will get to be able to exercise the omnipotence. Yeah, that is obvious because Mr. Levi did it, right? He obviously had a working way to do it because he did it, right? He didn't fail in all of his magical endeavors. He did it, right? 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 No? No? Okay. Back to the text. Fascination is fulfilled by magnetism. That is true. The Magus inwardly forbids a whole assembly to see him, and it does not see him. In this manner, he passes through guarded gates and departs from prison in the face of his petrified gaolers. Why are they petrified if they can't see him? At such times, a strange numbness is experienced, and they recall having seen the Magus as if in a dream, but never till after he is gone. The secret of invisibility, therefore, can wholly consist in a power which is capable of definition, that of distracting or paralyzing attention, so that the light reaches the visual organ without impressing the eye of the soul. To exercise this power, we must possess a will, accustomed to sudden and energetic actions, great presence of mind, and skill no less great in causing diversions among the crowd. Let a man, for example, who is being pursued by his intending murderers, dart into a side street, return immediately, and advance with perfect calmness towards his pursuers. Or let him mix with them and seem to be engaged in the chase, and he will certainly make himself invisible. Alright, so there's being invisible and there is being not seen. That is 2 different skills, right? I have never been invisible. I have never once managed to make it where light moves around me in a way that no one can see me. I have never been able to build a screen in between us. Right? Never been a thing. I believe it's possible. I saw a guy shoot purple light out of his hand one time. I believe it is a possibility. I have never been able to do it. Being not seen, however, that is an acquired skill that I have had since I was a child. Right? I have had the ability to blend into the background with no thought about it since I was a child. I have had the ability to not stand out with the best of them. I have always been shunned to the back. I have always been unobserved. Now, in my adult life, it's made people compare me to a ninja. That is not a bad word. I don't know if you can hear it right. Ninja, like the guys that wore the black in ancient feudal Japan. Right? I can walk into a room and stand right beside you and you never knew I walked into the room. That's kind of what he is talking about here. Now, my kids all of the time they're like, ninja, ninja. They get scared, right? That is an acquired skill. It is not necessarily magical. If it is magical, it is something that I am completely unaware that I do. There is entirely the possibility that you can do these things by affecting your will upon someone else. What I am going to say about that is a stupid idea, right? What is the rule? Nothing without consent. Are they consenting to not seeing you? Are they consenting to you messing with their eyes so that they don't see you? Do you think that there might possibly be some reverberations if you are altering someone's vision? Now, there may be instances where that is a perfectly acceptable thing. If you are attempting to save your life or the life of someone else, then there is a level of maybe, right? It is not a position I wish to be placed in. It is not something that I strive for, but if I'm in that position, I would give it a shot, right? If there is a foreign invasion force on the lands in the States, right, and they're in my neighborhood, and I am unable to defend myself and my family, I am going to try this. right? It will be a last straw, but I'm going to try it. And so, while it is possible, I want to point out that it is improbable. And if you are affecting, like, it's one thing to envelop yourself in a light shield so that all of the light bends around you and you're not visible. That is not messing with someone else's free will. It is entirely different to magnetize someone's eyes so that they cannot see you. That is interfering with free will. That is an important distinction. Back to the text. A priest who was being hunted in 93 with the intention of hanging him from a lamppost. That would have been 1793, right? Because it's 18, yeah. This was in the 1850s, so he was talking about 1793. With the intention of hanging him from a lamppost, fled down a side street, assumed a stooping gait, and leaned against a corner with an intensely preoccupied expression. See, that is distraction, not magic. The crowd of his enemies swept past. Not one saw him, or rather, it never struck anyone to recognize him. It was so unlikely to be he. The person who desires to be seen always makes himself observed, and he who would remain unnoticed effaces himself and disappears. The true ring of Gyges is the will. It is also the rod of the transformations, and by its precise and strong formulation, it creates the magical word. All right, so the rod, right? The rod of transformations. We talked about it before. That is your spinal column, right? The 7 internal chakras attached to the 1 external chakra, making a total of 8. The 7 internal ones are your rod of transformation, pulling the energy up, pulling the energy down, finding the balance between all of the chakras. That is quite literally how it works. And so, yes, that is exactly how it works. And precise and strong formulation means you have the balance. That is how you create the creative word. That is exactly how manifestation works. The omnipotent terms of enchantment. And if you're interested in that, right, the membership will get you the book that I read where I teach you to do magic, or you can buy a copy of my book where I teach you to do magic, or you can dig through the Esoterica and Infinite Integrations playlist where we detail how to do this magic. All right. The omnipotent terms of enchantments are those which express this creative power of forms. The tetragram, which is the supreme word of magic, signifies it is that which it shall be, and if we apply it to any transformation whatsoever with full intelligence, it will renew and modify all things, even in the teeth of evidence and common sense. The Hoc Est of the Christian sacrifice is a translation and application of the tetragram. Hence, this simple utterance operates the most complete, most invisible, most incredible, and most clearly affirmed of all transformations. A still stronger word than that of transformation has been judged necessary by councils to express that marvel, that of transubstantiation. The Hebrew terms have been considered by all Kabbalists as the key of magical transformation. Transubstantiation, that is, when they break the bread, this is the literal body of Christ. When you drink the wine, it is the literal blood of Christ. Both of which, to me, is a complete abomination. Complete and total abomination. Blood sacrifice is horrible in every single instance in which it has been used. The only possible exception is that Christ was trying to get rid of the blood sacrifice. And then we built a whole religion about his blood being the necessary sacrifice, which is foolish if you read the Bible, right? We have a Bible study. If that is confusing, please fall back and watch it. The Hebrew terms, have been considered by all Kabbalists as the keys of magical transformation. The Latin words est, sit, esto, fiat, had the same force when pronounced with full understanding. Est is it is, fiat is accomplished, sit is current, I think. I don't know Hebrew, but I know a little tiny smattering of Latin, and I might be wrong in that. Monsieur de Montalembert and Montalembert seriously relates in his legend of Saint Elizabeth of Hungary how one day this saintly lady, surprised by her noble husband, from whom she sought to conceal her good works, in the act of carrying bread to the poor in her apron, told him that she was carrying roses, and it proved on investigation that she had spoken truly. The loaves had been changed into roses. This story is a most gracious magical apologue and signifies that the truly wise man cannot lie, and that the word of wisdom determines the form of things, or even their substance, independently of their forms. Alright, this is not true, right? In the you can still physically tell a lie. Just so it is clear, right? What this is saying is that if you are truly wise, you will not seek to tell a lie, right? You will not endeavor to tell a lie. As a matter of fact, you will endeavor not to tell a lie. That doesn't mean that you cannot on a physical level. It means that you cannot on a spiritual level. For me, to tell a lie is painful. It really is. I can do it, right? I can even do it convincingly in the necessity. I do not practice it anymore. I have a 300% honesty policy. I haven't talked about it in a while, right? I am 100% honest with myself. I am 100% honest with my crew. And I am 100% honest with my God. That's 100%. If I am doing those things, I am living my most authentic life. And because I am living my most authentic life, the consequences be damned. If I piss you off because I say something true, too bad. It's true. It doesn't matter if you're pissed off. Even to the point where I am willing to sacrifice my life for it. I hope it does not come down to that, but I am at that point. I will stand on what I have to stand on. There is no dissembling. Do I dissemble in these videos? Do I tiptoe around the fact that Christianity is a blood cult and it is horrible? I don't. I tell you bluntly and plainly whether it pisses you off or not. I start off every video telling you that I'm probably going to piss you off. And it's because I spiritually cannot lie. If I attempt to, my spirit lets me know right away that is not a good idea. Like seriously, it is a whole conflict inside of me to tell a white lie. My wife has learned not to ask questions she does not want the answer to. My children have learned not to ask a question if you don't want the answer. Does these pants make my butt look big? A little bit. Right? Are these shoes ugly? Yeah. What's the point in lying? You give your opinion. Back to the text. Why, for example, should not the noble spouse of Saint Elizabeth, a good and firm Christian like herself, and believing implicitly in the real presence of the Savior in true human body upon an altar where he beheld only a wheaten host, why should he not believe in the real presence of roses in his wife's apron under the appearance of bread? I've got a better question. You ready for my question? Didn't I just tell you I was going to piss you off? I do this all the time. A good and firm Christian like herself. Now, she is going to feed the poor. What does she have to do? She had to hide the fact that she's going to feed the poor. Why? Because her husband would not approve. Is that a good and firm Christian like herself? Is that a little bit maybe not inclined towards charity? Is there a balance not being struck in that relationship? I wonder if maybe he said some words. He walked down the aisle. He made a proclamation. He got dunked under the water. He smeared himself in the blood. But there wasn't no change in his life. I wonder if it worked. Why did she have to hide the bread? If he was a good and firm Christian like herself, she was going to feed the poor. It's quite literally one of the things that Jesus told you to do. She exhibited him loaves, undoubtedly, but as she had said that they were roses, and as he believed her incapable of the smallest falsehood, he saw and wished to see roses only. This is the secret of the miracle. I got a feeling we're coming back to that one. This is the secret of the miracle. Another legend narrates how a saint, whose name has escaped me, finding nothing to eat on a Lenten day or a Friday, commanded the fowl to become a fish, and it became a fish. So you couldn't get the reference? You were writing a book. It's not like it was going to get away from you. It's not like you didn't have time to go and ask somebody. I'm sure somebody knew what you were talking about. I'm sure you knew who to ask. You couldn't wait, right? You could write this whole chapter, send a letter to somebody, get the letter back, and edit the name in. Why do you escape the name? That's a little bit weird to me. The parable needs no interpretation and recalls a beautiful story of Saint Spiridon of Trimethonte, the same who evoked the soul of his daughter Irene. One Good Friday, a traveler reached the abode of the holy bishop, and as bishops in those days took Christianity in earnest, and were consequently poor, Spiridion, who fasted religiously, here's a little bit of pride for you, had in his house only some salted bacon, which had been made ready for Easter. So, pork. Pork is what he had. The stranger was overcome with fatigue and famished with hunger. Spiridion offered him the meat and himself shared the meal of charity, thus transforming the very flesh which the Jews regard as of all most impure into a feast of penitence, transcending the material law by spirit of the law itself, and proving himself a true and intelligent disciple of the man-God, who hath established his elect as the monarchs of nature in the three worlds. So, we're going to hit back real quick, right? I wasn't sure how close we were to the end. This is the secret of the miracle. Is self-deception. No. The secret of the miracle is self-realization. It is living that true path we were just talking about, right? Now, what happened here? He believed that she had roses because she ensorcelled him to believe that, right? She performed a miracle to turn the bread into a loaf, at least in his eyes. That's probably got some negative repercussions, but that is not the secret of the miracle. And I say that with just a small bit of authority because I have performed a miracle. Now, it's not a grand showy one like other people would believe, but I have healed my throat. I can talk to you. I've healed my shoulder. I can move it. I got strength. I've healed my back. I don't wake up at a 6 or a 7 every day in pain. It doesn't happen anymore. I can move. Before I broke my leg, or my neighbor broke my leg, I was running for the first time in 15 years. I had been in extreme pain for 15 years, but I healed me through the direct manipulation of the electromagnetic forces of creation, transmutation, in myself. That is the secret of the miracle. It is not deceiving someone into believing that they're seeing something that they're not. That's subterfuge. It's not hiding like a ninja in plain sight. That's subterfuge. That's not transmutation. Transmutation is things actually changing. I've actually changed me, right? Like, I haven't just thought about it. I haven't just read about it. I haven't even performed and not been able to produce, like Mr. Levi. I have performed and I have results. In addition to the healing within me, I have all of the blessings of spirit. Both of my children love me. I love them. I'm in a successful marriage. I've been married for 25 years. Right? Or in a relationship. We've been married for 21. I've got the fruits of the Spirit. I'm provided for even in poverty, right? I don't have spending money, but I've got a house. I've got a yard. I've got the ability to take care of those. I've got the ability to feed myself and other people, right? I've got my daughter still lives here. My son's fully employed in another town, right? He went off to college. He hasn't come home. My daughter lives here. She's not working at the moment. That's not a problem. But I have the ability to provide for her. And in addition to that, my brother-in-law lives here. I'm providing for him too, me and my wife, right? We're provided for. That's fruit. We're not rich, but we're well off. We're doing better than a lot of people. That is a blessing. That is transmutation, right? A lot of it is your mind. A lot of it is what you think about. A lot of it is what you pull in, but it is not subterfuge. If you are practicing subterfuge, except in the instance of saving your life, you're doing life wrong. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a somewhat difficult series of topics. I understand that I hold some unconventional beliefs and I have a tendency to step on toes when I relay those. It is not intentional, but it is not something that I apologize for. I tell you that every single time because it doesn't matter to me if I step on your toes. It matters to me if I am being truthful. It doesn't matter to me if you don't believe me. It matters to me that I am telling you the truth. It doesn't matter to me whether you are effective. It matters to me that I am doing what I am supposed to do. I want you to take the information that I give and to use it to transform your life, beginning with your mind. Doing the mental alchemy to take whatever shitty situation comes your way and not letting the shit stick to you. That is mental alchemy. That is how you make gold. If you like what I'm doing over here, let me know down below. Give me a like, a share, a follow, throw me a comment. If you agree or disagree with anything that is said, put it in the box down below. And if it remains respectful, it gets to remain up. If there is another work you would like to see me discuss in the manner that we are doing here, drop that in the box as well. And if you really like what I'm doing, hit me with that super thanks. Consider joining for a membership or picking up a copy of my book where I teach you to do magic. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pit Steak. Peace.